Competitive gaming is something I've always had an interesting relationship with. On one hand, I've always loved that feeling of winning a challenging game, but on the other, I wonder if it's even worth my time if I'm not playing at an insanely high rank. In fact, several months ago, I put down any and all competitive games. No more Overwatch, Valorant, or League of Legends. And at the time, this was pretty great for me. I no longer found myself raging at my computer screen at 12 AM, and I was able to focus on more important things like health and YouTube. Recently though, I've slowly been integrating back into the world of competitive gaming, and this time it's with a new mindset. Before now, I had viewed these games from a perspective of, if I don't win, this game is pointless. To many, this is what they believe as well. But after a long period of only playing single-player games, I learned this. Video games are for fun. Yeah, okay, this is not a revolutionary conclusion at all, but hear me out. We play video games for a couple of reasons. Some of us like to de-stress after a rough day, or maybe we just need to pass some time. Regardless of your reasoning, we really just want to have a fun or relaxing experience. I guess one of the only exceptions to this is if you're a professional esports player, and well, fair enough if you are, but for the vast majority of gamers, why would we let ourselves get so angry at a simple game? Well, this actually comes down to a few different reasons. Now, I could go ahead and do a bunch of psychological research as to why we care so much about competitive games, but I think that could get a bit confusing. So I want to talk about the practical experiences a gamer would go through in this situation. We all know that there are many different types of competitive games and ranking systems. League of Legends, Dota 2, and Valorant focus on a long-form game based around strategy, mechanical skill, and map awareness. These games typically last between 30 and 60 minutes. Next, there's a more mid-range length of a game, like Overwatch or Fortnite. Now, while I can't really define a specific style for these, they typically last between 15 and 30 minutes. Lastly, there's the fast-paced type of games, like Rocket League and most fighting games. These last between 5 and 15 minutes typically and are quite often skill-intensive. This means, since there's so little time, one mistake can have tremendous implications on the result of the match. In comparison, one mistake at the beginning of a Valorant game is just one round out of many. Keeping this all in mind, the length of a game can also affect how much we care if we win or we lose. If we lose a game of Rocket League, oh well, it was just 5 minutes of our time, and we can often win another game quite fast, especially if the other team forfeits. In League of Legends though, if we spend almost an hour fighting hard and then you just lose because of a lost team fight, that's where things can get really infuriating. So how can we reduce this feeling of anger after such a long time invested into a game? Well, it all comes down to how much you really care about it. A lot of us feel very attached to our rank in these kind of games. After all, a particular rank means you're better or worse than a certain number of people. Not to mention, these ranks can often take quite a long time to achieve, and therefore we feel very attached to them. But I don't know, there has to be a deeper reason as to why we care so much about these ranks though, because everything I've listed is pretty superficial. Well, I think I know one major factor as to how we get so entranced by these pixels on a screen: the feeling of progression. See, the thing with esports is that in many ways, it emulates real-life sports. Team play, strategy, wins and losses. Of course though, I would say esports are much easier to get into than physical ones. This is because the barrier to entry is a lot lower. Let's just imagine we're talking about the highest level of play. If you want to have a chance at competing in something like the NBA, you can't just hop on the game and climb to the highest rank, obviously. You'd need to practice for years, join a notable team, and then maybe you'll get a chance. In esports, it's certainly not easy, but at least you can get recognized a lot easier due to the ranking leaderboards, online-based teams, and live streaming even. On a more casual level though, it's also much easier than playing real-life sports. Joining a recreational team is usually not free and requires a good chunk of time out of your day. Compare that to almost any free-to-play competitive game that lets you queue up in a matter of seconds. Once we actually get to the gameplay though, esports once again proves how accessible it is. In real life, there aren't deliberate ranks you can have as an athlete. I mean, sure, you can be an NBA level player, but that doesn't really mean anything except that you made it into the league. That can range from literally being one of the most mediocre players in the league to LeBron James. In a video game ranking system, you have a deliberate rank that you earned your way to get. It's very specific, and you can get a good picture of someone's skill level just by their ranking. Okay, enough with all the esports and real-life comparisons though, let's talk about gaming for a bit. When we sit down to play these games, when we win and see our rank improve, we get an instant hit of dopamine. Even if it's just a menial rank up from silver to gold, we still feel like it matters. We progressed in a game that we love to play. This is absolutely fine, and I still have this reaction when I rank up. Where things go wrong though though, is when we start feeling upset and lashing out at our own friends because we lose. It genuinely is never that serious. So when I reintegrated competitive gaming back into my life, I made sure to set a rule for myself to never rage at a game like this. Obviously, sometimes I'll get more emotionally invested, but I won't ever really get mad at a friend for doing something wrong. It really is just a game after all, and I'm just trying to have a fun time. Even recently, I've been picking up sports games with one of my friends, and it's just super fun to play, just, for a game or two at the end of a day. Regardless of the result, I'm happy because I get to spend time and relax with someone who just wants to have a good time. So in terms of what you can do in terms of how you view these competitive games, well, let me tell you my mentality. Instead of caring so much about things like rank or your elo, focus on your actual improvement in the game, because it not only allows you to learn from your losses instead of just getting angry, but it also gives you the freedom to have fun regardless of results. Oftentimes we try so hard to increase our rank, it ends up doing the opposite and we drop an incredible amount of rating points. This is also known as tilt queuing. We often delude ourselves into thinking we deserve a higher rank than we have, so we rush to get it. The thing is, to climb in many of these games, you'll have to be significantly better than everyone else in your rank, not just a little bit better. This is why it will always be more beneficial to improve your skills and game sense versus just trying to sprint to the next rank. Especially since even if you do improve your rank, you'll eventually just hit another wall and get stuck in the same cycle. If you focus on constant improvement, you'll be sure to never get hard stuck at one rank. There is one mystery left about these games though, and it's one that I have a lot of stories about. And that's, why do we play games that we aren't having fun with? I guess I kind of answered this earlier, but I remember finding myself always saying, this game sucks, and I would keep playing for hours and hours. So why did this happen? Well, I guess on one end of the spectrum, you could say this is a case of sunk cost fallacy, and this basically means we force ourselves to play something because we spent money on the game, but I'm not sure if that's it. A couple years ago, Fortnite was really the only great free-to-play game on console, so the paid games I did have, like NBA 2K or Madden, were really the only games I could play with friends. To completely abandon those games would mean less time with them, and I don't think I was willing to sacrifice that. At the time, I actually did find a way to still enjoy these games outside of the ranking system through the more single-player based game modes that I would play alongside my friends instead of with them. This allowed me to play the game I truly loved without going through all the stupid ranking stuff. I guess if we want to bring everything full circle, there's a lot of reasons as to why people play competitive games. Some love the feeling of progression, others simply enjoy spending time with friends. Regardless of what your reasoning is for playing the games that you do, you'll likely find yourself getting a little aggravated at times. But instead of lashing out at your teammates or tilt queuing your way down a bunch of ranks, maybe just take a step back and take a new approach to gaming. Focus on the fun, the interactions with your friends, the feeling of improvement, because you're never going to have a game without these annoyances. Even the most well-designed and streamlined competitive games will have an element of luck, especially if you're doing something like solo queuing in ranked. So don't worry about what you can't control. Focus on yourself and keep improving, and you'll probably notice you're actually enjoying these games a lot more. Or if you could just play single-player games, because those are pretty awesome too.